Climate change is a long term warming of the planet due to an increase in average global temperatures, primarily caused by human activities that release greenhouse gases such as carbon dioxide, methane, and others, leading to melting of polar ice caps, rising sea levels, altered precipitation patterns, and extreme weather events, with significant impacts on ecosystems, biodiversity, human health, and the economy. Now we will talk about climate change and its threats to nature. Climate change is leading to a significant increase in high temperatures globally, resulting in more frequent and severe heat waves, record breaking temperatures, and a steady rise in average global temperature. This warming is causing urban heat islands to intensify, leading to extreme weather events like droughts, wildfires, and intense storms. Climate change is intensifying droughts and wildfires worldwide, creating a devastating cycle of water scarcity, ecosystem disruption, and explosive blaze. Rising temperatures, altered precipitation patterns, and increased evaporation are fueling droughts, which in return heighten the risk of wildfires. These fires are becoming more frequent, larger, and intense, threatening human life, property, and infrastructure, while also ravaging ecosystems, biodiversity, and air quality. Climate change is significantly impacting the availability of fresh water globally. This threatens human health, food security, ecosystems, and economic development, making access to fresh water a critical aspect of climate change mitigation and adaptation efforts. Climate change is intensifying the frequency, severity, and unpredictability of floods globally, driven by rising sea levels, intensified precipitation, melting glaciers and snowpack, and changes in land use and development. This leads to more frequent and severe coastal river and flash flooding, posing significant threats to human life, property, infrastructure, ecosystems, and economic development. Climate change is driving a rise in sea levels primarily due to the melting of glaciers and ice sheets, thermal expansion of warming ocean waters, and changes in land water storage. This leads to increased coastal erosion and flooding, saltwater intrusion into freshwater sources, loss of coastal ecosystems and habitats, and a heightened risk of storm surges and coastal damage. Climate change and biodiversity are closely interconnected issues. Climate change affects biodiversity by altering species habitats and distribution, changing precipitation patterns, increasing extreme weather events, and raising sea levels, which threatens coastal ecosystems. Conversely, the loss of biodiversity exacerbates climate change by reducing vegetation cover, impairing ecosystem resilience, and disrupting nutrient cycles. Climate change has significant impacts on soil, leading to increased soil erosion, degradation, and changes in soil organic matter. Rising temperatures and altered precipitation patterns cause more frequent and intense weather events, resulting in soil erosion and landslides. Climate change has far reaching consequences for inland waters, including changes in water temperature and quality, altered hydrological cycles, and increased evaporation and water loss due to warmer temperatures. This in turn leads to more frequent and severe floods and droughts impacting aquatic life and human uses. Climate change is having a profound impact on marine life, from warming ocean temperatures to ocean acidification. Rising temperatures are altering marine ecosystems, causing shifts in species distribution behavior and extinction risk. Warmer water also leads to increased disease and parasite spread among marine species. Ocean acidification caused by increased CO2 absorption harms marine life with calcium carbonate shells such as corals and shellfish. Now we will talk about climate change and its social threats. Climate change has far reaching consequences for human health, including increased frequency and severity of heat waves leading to heat related illness and deaths. Changes in precipitation patterns lead to droughts and floods, contaminating water sources and increasing the spread of waterborne diseases. Warmer temperatures allow disease carrying insects to expand their ranges, increasing the transmission of diseases like malaria, dengue fever, and Lyme disease. Climate change disproportionately affects vulnerable populations, including low income communities, children, the elderly, indigenous communities, people with disabilities, women, and small island developing states and coastal communities. These populations face increased risk to their health, livelihoods, and well being due to climate change and are often the least equipped to adapt to its impacts. Climate change has far reaching implications for employment, leading to job losses and displacement in industries vulnerable to climate impacts such as agriculture, forestry, and tourism. Conversely, new job opportunities are emerging in fields related to renewable energy, energy efficiency, and sustainability. Climate change poses a significant threat to education, including disruptions to infrastructure and learning environments due to extreme weather events and sea level rise, increased risk of school closures, and displacement of students and communities. Negative impacts on students' health and well being due to air and water pollution, decreased access to education for vulnerable populations, particularly in low lying or disaster prone areas, threats to educational resources and funding due to economic instability and diversion of resources to address climate related disasters, interruptions to supply chains and transportation affecting the delivery of educational materials and resources. Now we will talk about climate change and its threats to business. Climate change poses a significant threat to infrastructure and buildings, with rising sea levels and coastal erosion damaging coastal structures, while extreme weather events like flooding, wind, and heat waves compromise the integrity of buildings and roads. Increased precipitation overloads drainage systems, leading to flooding, and droughts cause materials to degrade, weakening foundations. Climate change poses significant threats to energy systems, including disruptions to fuel supply chains and transportation, damage to power generation and transmission infrastructure, and increased energy demand for cooling due to rising temperatures. Water scarcity also impacts hydroelectric power generation and cooling systems, while changes in temperature and precipitation patterns affect renewable energy sources like solar and wind. Climate change poses significant threats to agriculture, including rising temperatures, changing precipitation patterns, and increased frequency of extreme weather events, leading to crop failures, reduced yields, and altered growing seasons. Warmer temperatures also alter the distribution and prevalence of pests and diseases, while changing precipitation patterns impact soil health and water availability, affecting irrigation and crop growth. Climate change poses significant threats to forestry, including increased risk of wildfires and forest fires due to rising temperatures and drought, changes in precipitation patterns, and increased frequency of extreme weather events, leading to forest degradation and tree mortality, shifts in tree species distribution, and altered forest composition, increased spread of pests and diseases such as bark beetles and fungal infections. Disruptions to forest regeneration and seedling establishment, loss of biodiversity and ecosystem function, decreased timber quality and quantity, negative impacts on forest dependent communities and economies. Climate change poses significant threats to the insurance industry, including increased frequency and severity of natural disasters, rising costs, and unpredictability of weather related events, and expanding risk zones. This leads to more claims and higher payouts, reduced profitability and competitiveness, and decreased availability and affordability of insurance coverage. Climate change poses a significant threat to the tourism industry as rising temperatures, sea level rise, and extreme weather events impact popular destinations and disrupt travel plans. Warmer waters and coral bleaching damage marine ecosystems, affecting snorkeling and diving spots, while melting glaciers and changing landscapes alter iconic natural attractions. Now we will talk about how to solve climate change issues. Solving climate change demands a profoundly comprehensive and multifaceted approach, necessitating the concerted efforts of individuals, communities, organizations, and governments worldwide to mitigate its far reaching consequences. This entails a rapid transition to renewable energy sources such as solar, wind, hydroelectric, and geothermal power to significantly reduce dependence on fossil fuels, which account for a substantial proportion of global greenhouse gas emissions. Enhancing energy efficiency in buildings, transportation, and industry is also crucial, involving the adoption of cutting edge technologies and sustainable practices to minimize energy consumption. Electrifying transportation and promoting sustainable land use practices such as reforestation and agroforestry can further reduce emissions and sequester carbon dioxide. Adopting sustainable agriculture practices, reducing food waste, and implementing climate resilient infrastructure and urban planning can help communities adapt to the impacts of climate change, such as rising sea levels, extreme weather events, and water scarcity. Supporting climate change research development and policy making is essential for informing effective solutions. Ultimately, addressing climate change requires a paradigm shift towards a more sustainable, equitable, and climate resilient future.